A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Nishit Kumar, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually attend 5th BIMSTEC Summit being hosted by Sri Lanka on Wednesday. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls upon BIMSTEC members states to collectively combat terrorism and violent extremism. Russia says it will reduce military activities near Kiev after face-to-face talks with Ukraine in Istanbul. UN Nuclear Watchdog's Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi reaches Ukraine to offer urgent technical assistance. US eases COVID-19 travel rating for India from high-risk level to low-risk level. Indian Minister Piyush Goyal says that India-United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement will be operationalized on 1st May this year. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals set a victory target of 211 runs before Sunrisers Hyderabad in Pune. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend the 5th BIMSTEC Summit on Wednesday. The summit, which is being held in virtual mode, will be hosted by Sri Lanka, the current chair of the 7-country grouping. BIMSTEC stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. To prepare for the summit, meeting of BIMSTEC senior officials took place yesterday, and the meetings of the BIMSTEC foreign ministers was held on Tuesday. The COVID pandemic-related challenges and the uncertainties within the international system that all BIMSTEC members are facing imparts greater urgency to the goal of taking BIMSTEC technical and economic cooperation to the next level. This is expected to be the main subject of deliberations by leaders at the summit. The leaders are also expected to discuss the establishment of basic institutional structures and mechanisms of the group. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participated in the 18th BIMSTEC ministerial meeting in Colombo on Tuesday. In his address, Dr. Jaishankar called upon BIMSTEC member states to collectively combat terrorism, violent extremism, transnational crime, cyber attacks, and narco-trafficking. He emphasized the grouping's commitment to intensify and expand areas of cooperation, especially connectivity, energy, and maritime cooperation. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary on India's quest for renewable energy solutions.
India is in the middle of an unprecedented expansion in the renewable energy sector. India is focusing on energy transition and is working in different segments: solar, wind, hydel and nuclear for the green energy tag. The potential to transition to a low carbon economy is significant. It presents one of the biggest opportunities for the Indian economy in this century. India's installed renewable energy capacity is the 4th largest in the world. As per the Paris Agreement, India is committed to achieve 500 gigawatts of installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030. The country achieved 157.3 gigawatts, including solar, wind and large hydro, or 40% of this target in November last year itself. It is well on track to reach its goal of 175 gigawatts by this year end. Out of the total mix, 100 gigawatts would be from solar, 60 gigawatts from wind, 10 gigawatts from biopower, and 5 gigawatts from small hydropower projects. The International Energy Agency IEA says that India's renewable power capacity has grown sixfold over the past decade. The resource potential is huge, ambitions are high, and policy support and technology cost reductions have quickly made it the cheapest option for new power generation, the agency states. India's renewable energy efforts have been led by solar energy. The country is entering a solar-powered revolution that will see it edge out coal as the nation's top electricity source, according to a recent report by IEA. Currently, solar power makes up just 4% of the nation's power supply, but it is set to grow 18-fold and become the new king of India's generation fleet by at least 2040, the report says. The government is installing solar panels in rural villages without electricity. Solar energy is powering other sectors in the community, such as agriculture, pottery, weaving, and carpentry. This would help villagers seek employment and improve their skill sets in these sectors. Due to such projects, the economic health of the villages is growing. Also, massive solar arrays are being built across the country. India has established 42 solar parks. The Bhadla Solar Park, spanning 14,000 acres in Rajasthan, is the largest in the world. Over 10 million solar panels contribute to an operational capacity of 2,245 megawatts. The government has granted must-run status to wind and solar projects. The wind energy sector, led by indigenous wind power industry, has shown consistent progress. The expansion has resulted in a strong ecosystem, project operation capabilities, and manufacturing base of about 10,000 megawatts per annum. The country has the fourth highest wind installed capacity in the world, with a total of 39.25 gigawatts. The government is promoting wind power projects through private sector investment by providing various fiscal and financial incentives. Further, green hydrogen will play a major role in achieving the net zero and decarbonizing the hard-to-abate sectors. India aims to become a global hub for green hydrogen production and exports. India hopes to create 5 million tons of green hydrogen demand, thereby replacing grey hydrogen in the refineries and fertilizer sectors. These 5 million tons will result in the abatement of 28 million tons of carbon dioxide. In energy transition, India has pitched the role of natural gas as a transition fuel. It can help the country wean itself off coal by providing an alternative fuel for industry uses, powering transport and heating homes. Currently, natural gas comprises 6% of the energy mix. The government aims to increase it to 15% by 2030. The country is also one of the world's largest producers of modern bioenergy and has big ambitions to scale up its use across the economy. As of 2020, India is on an upward trajectory to ensure the adoption of other eco-friendly energy alternatives. The country is decarbonizing the transport sector. Electronic vehicles, EVs, are being pursued as a lucrative alternative to the customary petrol and diesel vehicles. India has firmed up schemes to incentivize companies to build EVs and batteries locally to boost supply and complement a host of benefits for EV buyers. It wants to cut road transport emissions by 15%. All these giant strides will make India one of the largest renewable markets in the world.
Russia will drastically reduce its military activity in northern Ukraine, including the capital Kyiv, after meaningful talks in Istanbul, Moscow's negotiators said on Tuesday. We have a desk report.
Russia's Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin said that the talks on the preparation of an agreement on the neutrality and non-nuclear status of Ukraine have moved into a practical field. Chief negotiator Vladimir Medinsky said that there has been a meaningful discussion at the talks and that Ukrainian proposals would be put before Russian President Vladimir Putin. He also said that President Putin could meet Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. Medinsky added that after Tuesday's meaningful discussion, they have agreed to propose a solution according to which the meeting of the heads of the states is possible simultaneously with the foreign ministers reaching a treaty. He said on the condition of quick work on the agreement and finding the required compromise, the possibility to make peace will become much closer. Meanwhile, UN Nuclear Watchdog's Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi has reached Ukraine for talks with senior government officials on delivering urgent technical assistance to ensure the safety of the country's nuclear facilities. The International Atomic Energy Agency said Grossi's aim is to initiate prompt safety and security support for Ukraine's nuclear sites. That will include sending IAEA experts to prioritized facilities which it didn't identify and sending vital safety and security supplies, including monitoring and emergency equipment. It said that Grossi will travel to one of Ukraine's nuclear power plants this week. Ukraine has 15 nuclear reactors with 4 active power plants and also is home to the decommissioned Chernobyl plant, the site of the 1986 nuclear disaster. Russian forces have taken control of Chernobyl and of the largest active power plant at Zaporizhia. Swati Rukheja for World News All India Radio.
United Nations chief on Monday launched an initiative to immediately explore possible arrangements for a humanitarian ceasefire in Ukraine. Talking to reporters outside the Security Council in New York, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, using his good offices, he asked UN Humanitarian Affairs Chief Martin Griffiths to explore the possibility of a ceasefire with Russia and Ukraine. Griffiths is in close contact with other countries in the hope of involving Russia in meaningful negotiations, including Turkey, Qatar, Israel, India, China, France and Germany, the UN chief added. The UN chief has also appealed for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Ukraine so that serious political negotiations can advance towards a peace agreement. Mr. Guterres said the cessation of hostilities will allow essential humanitarian aid to be delivered and enable civilians to move around safely. He said it will save lives, prevent suffering and protect civilians.
UN Refugee Agency UNHCR has said the Russia-Ukraine conflict has triggered Europe's worst refugee crisis since World War II. The agency said speed and breadth of refugees fleeing to countries including Poland, Romania, Moldova, Hungary, Slovakia as well as Russia is unprecedented in recent times. According to the latest tally announced on Sunday by the UNHCR, total exodus now stands at 3.87 million. The agency's senior emergency coordinator in Poland, Alex Mund, said, "Until there is a political solution, there is no guarantee that the trend of new arrivals will decrease." The International Organization for Migration, IOM, has also estimated that more than 6.5 million people in Ukraine have been driven from their homes due to conflict but remain displaced inside the country. IOM said another 12 million people are believed to be trapped in places where fighting has been intense or do not want to leave. Group of 7 major economies on Monday rejected Moscow's demand to pay for Russian natural gas exports in rubles. German Economy Minister Robert Habeck, whose country holds the G7 presidency, said all G7 ministers agreed that this is a unilateral and clear breach of the existing agreements. Earlier, President Vladimir Putin said unfriendly countries will have to pay for Russian gas in Russia's own currency. A G7 statement said the energy ministers of France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States, the United Kingdom and Canada, as well as the European Union Energy Commissioner, met by video conference and reaffirmed that contracts must be respected, with most stipulating payments be in euros or dollars. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
The US has eased COVID-19 travel rating for India from high risk level to the low risk level. US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, said last night that it has changed its COVID-19 travel recommendation for India to level 1, that is low, from level 3, that is high. In a statement, US State Department said the risk of contracting COVID-19 and developing severe symptoms may be lower if you are fully vaccinated with an FDA-authorized vaccine. The statement said, before planning any international travel, please review the CDC's specific recommendations for vaccinated and unvaccinated travelers. While giving key information for travelers to India, the CDC said, make sure you are vaccinated and up to date with your COVID-19 vaccines before traveling to India. CDC uses travel health notices to alert travelers and other audiences to health threats around the world and advise on how to protect themselves. India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 183 crore 79 lakh so far. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has said that over 23 lakh vaccine doses were administered on Tuesday. Over 1,200 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. The country's recovery rate is currently at 98.75%.
Government of India said adequate scientific data is required for National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization to make a recommendation on mixing of COVID-19 vaccines. This was stated by Indian Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Bharti Pawar, in a written reply in the Rajya Sabha on Tuesday. She said Central Drug Standard Control Organization has granted permissions for conduct of clinical trials for administration of mixed vaccine regimen. She said Christian Medical College in Vellore to conduct phase 4 study with Covishield and Covaxin to compare immunogenicity of mixed vaccine regimen. She added Bharat Biotech for phase 2 clinical trial to evaluate the immunogenicity and safety of Covaxin and adenoviral intranasal COVID-19 vaccine. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has said the India-United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (CEPA) will be operationalized on 1st of May this year. Addressing a business-to-business meet on India-UAE CEPA in Dubai on Monday, Mr. Goyal said the historic deal sets the tone for new beginnings, extraordinary outcomes and a paradigm shift in our trade ties. He said this will significantly open the doors to significant markets all over the world. The minister termed the India-UAE partnership as the defining strategic partnership of the 21st century. He said this agreement gives a new direction, a paradigm shift to this relationship. Mr. Goyal said the India-UAE CEPA is based on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas or Sabka Prayas. He said India wants a larger share of the UAE market as New Delhi sets its eyes on achieving $1 trillion goods exports by 2030. India-UAE CEPA was signed on 18th of February 2022 in New Delhi during the India-UAE virtual summit held between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The agreement aimed at boosting the merchandise trade between the two countries to $100 billion over next 5 years.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh spoke to his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Gantz over telephone. During the call, Mr. Singh offered his sincere condolences on the loss of lives of innocent civilians due to recent terror attacks in Israel. He said terrorism is a threat to the world and it does not have any place in the civilized world. He said both the countries look forward to further strengthen the bilateral relations as India-Israel complete 30 years of full diplomatic relations. He said defense cooperation is the founding pillar of strategic partnership. Mr. Gantz informed Mr. Singh that his proposed visit to India has been postponed due to some unavoidable reasons and new dates will be worked out through diplomatic channels. Israel on Monday hosted the first ever summit with foreign ministers of 4 Arab nations and the US on its soil. Foreign ministers from Israel, the United States, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco and Egypt highlighted efforts to cooperate and expand ties in West Asia. Meeting at a resort in Israel's southern Negev desert, the ministers and Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged to expand cooperation to include energy, environmental and security matters and try to bring others into the agreements. At a joint news conference, Mr. Blinken said the US has and will continue to strongly support a process that is transforming the region and beyond. Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid said the group is making history as they announced the gathering would become an annual event. They said the countries are forming a partnership based on technology, religious tolerance, security and intelligence cooperation. Bahrain's Foreign Minister Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani said the countries involved need to practice mutual respect, advance their common security and prosperity, and demonstrate to the whole region what can be achieved by working together. UAE Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan noted Egypt's 1979 peace agreement with Israel, describing the more than 40-year gap between that deal and the 2020 accords as lost time. He said now is an opportunity to change the narrative and create a new future and build stronger relationships together. The UAE, Bahrain and Morocco normalized ties with Israel under the 2020 US initiative known as the Abraham Accords. Egypt in 1979 became the first Arab state to make peace with Israel. The King of Jordan, Abdullah II, visited Palestinian Prime Minister Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank city of Ramallah on Monday in his first such trip since 2017. Mr. Blinken also held talks with Mr. Abbas on Sunday, where he reiterated his support for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict.
Foreign Minister of Mexico Marcelo Ebrard Casabon will be on a 2-day visit to India from Wednesday. This is the first visit of Mr. Casabon to India in his capacity as Foreign Minister. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Mr. Casabon will undertake a comprehensive review of bilateral relations and will also discuss international issues of mutual interest. The Mexican Foreign Minister is also scheduled to visit Mumbai. Mr. Casabon's visit follows Dr. Jaishankar's visit to Mexico City in September last year. New Delhi said this exchange of visits will consolidate and further strengthen the privileged partnership between India and Mexico. Currently, Mexico is India's second largest trade partner in Latin America and is a member of UNSC alongside India for the period 2021-22. China's biggest city, Shanghai, on Tuesday reported nearly 4,500 domestically transmitted infections, mostly asymptomatic, a new record amid this wave of Omicron outbreaks since March in the city. Shanghai initially attempted different strategies to avoid a complete lockdown, but decided to put the entire city of 24 million in two-phase lockdown. The Shanghai Stock Exchange remains in operation. State media quoting economists reported this new COVID-19 wave in Shanghai could cut the city's GDP growth by 0.5% in the first and second quarters compared to a year ago.
In Pakistan, the opposition has mounted pressure on Prime Minister Imran Khan as leader of opposition Shehbaz Sharif tabled a no-confidence resolution against him in the National Assembly on Monday. The bill was tabled after 161 members of the National Assembly voted in favor of bringing the bill. Following the tabling of the motion, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Qasim Khan Suri announced that debate on the resolution will begin on March 31st and adjourn the session until 4 p.m. on March 31st. The opposition needs votes from at least 172 lawmakers for the no-trust move to succeed. Since another ally of Imran Khan, Shahzain Bugti of the Jamhuri Watan Party has also pulled out of the ruling coalition, the number of Treasury members has now reduced to 178 in the 342-member lower house of the parliament. The Balochistan Awami Party had already crossed over to the opposition, increasing Imran Khan's trouble. The opposition has support of 163 MNAs and needs support of just 9 more MNAs. On the other hand, Imran Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI), which enjoys a majority in Punjab, made PMLQ leader Chaudhry Parvez Elahi as its chief ministerial candidate after incumbent Usman Buzdar presented his resignation to Khan. Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting Farooq Habib later informed that PMLQ had decided to support the Imran Khan government in the no-confidence resolution in the National Assembly. Meanwhile, another PMLQ leader, Tariq Bashir Shima, had resigned from the federal cabinet and had said that he would support the opposition in the no-confidence vote. The World Bank on Tuesday approved $358 million of financing for Bangladesh to help improve road safety and reduce fatalities and injuries from road traffic crashes in selected high-risk highways and district roads. This is the first dedicated road safety project in South Asia supported by the World Bank. It will help Bangladesh develop a comprehensive program to improve road safety management and minimize loss of human lives. In 2021, at least 6,284 people were killed and 7,468 others were injured in road accidents across the country, according to an annual report of the Bangladesh Road Safety Foundation (RSF). The World Bank estimates that the costs related to traffic crashes can be as high as 5.1% of the GDP.
In Nigeria, gunmen are reported to have abducted an unknown number of passengers from a train in the northern Kaduna state. The gang mined the track between the capital Abuja and Kaduna city and forced the evening train to a halt. Many of the nearly 1,000 passengers on board took shelter as shots were fired. This is the second time the railway has been attacked in the last 6 months. Kidnapping for ransom has become commonplace in the northern Nigeria, and the bandits, as they are known locally, are becoming increasingly rampant. On Saturday, they also attacked Kaduna's international airport. The Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC) is all set to be admitted as the 7th member of the East African Community (EAC). The EAC Secretariat has said all arrangements are in place for the Extraordinary Heads of State Summit on Tuesday, when DR Congo will be formally received in a virtual session. Dr. Kevin Desai, Kenyan Principal Secretary EAC and Regional Affairs, said DRC comes into the bloc with a huge market of 90 million people and the potential to contribute to an expanded market and investment opportunities.
Afghanistan's Taliban has instructed all government employees to wear a beard and adhere to a dress code or risk being fired. This is the latest of several new restrictions imposed by the hardline Islamist administration. Representatives from the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice were patrolling the entrances to government offices yesterday to check that employees were in compliance with the new rules. Employees are being instructed not to shave their beards and to wear local clothing consisting of a long, loose top and trousers and a turban. They were also told to ensure that they prayed at the correct times. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals have set a mammoth victory target of 211 runs before Sunrisers Hyderabad SRH at Maharashtra Cricket Association Stadium in Pune. Chasing the target, Hyderabad were 101 for 6 in 16.5 overs when reports last came in. Put into bat first, Rajasthan scored 210 runs for 6 in the stipulated 20 overs, riding on captain Sanju Samson's blistering 55 of 27 balls, Devdutt Padikal's 41 of 29 and Jose Butler's 35 of 28. For Hyderabad, Umran Malik and T. Natarajan scalped 2 wickets apiece.
And now a report from the business world.
The Sensex climbed 350 points or 0.61% to close at 57,944. The Nifty surged 103 points or 0.6% to settle at 17,325. Global share markets posted gains as Russia and Ukraine held their first face-to-face talks in more than 2 weeks in Turkey for conflict resolution. Majority of Asian stocks gained except China's Shanghai Composite Index, which fell around 0.3%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and Japan's Nikkei 225 both climbed 1.1% each. South Korea's Kospi rose 0.4% and Singapore's Straits Times rose 0.1%. Europe's main bourses made strong opening gains, taking cues from Asia overnight after the Bank of Japan had defended its vast stimulus program. Brent crude prices declined more than 5% as Russia and Ukraine held their first face-to-face talks. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $106.40 per barrel. Back home, gold prices fell 730 rupees at multi-commodity exchange for April contracts. The precious metal was trading at 50,840 rupees per 10 gram. Silver prices also declined 1,640 rupees to 66,460 rupees per kilogram for May contracts when reports last came in, and the rupee strengthened 17 paisa against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 75 rupees and 99 paisa per dollar. Anubha Rohatgi for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Let us take a look at the press reports on China. It was widely reported that China will host the third meeting of the foreign ministers of Afghanistan's neighboring countries on March 30 to 31st. CNN reports Philippines slams Chinese ships close-distance maneuvering in the South China Sea. CNBC reports China's biggest city, Shanghai, began a two-stage lockdown on Monday as authorities attempt different strategies to maintain growth while trying to control the country's worst COVID-19 outbreak since the pandemic began. The Shanghai Stock Exchange remains in operation. State media reported Shanghai suddenly changed course from its previous piecemeal approach and veered towards a much stringent path on Sunday night to put the entire city in two-phase lockdown.
Let us take a look at what made the headlines in Bangladesh. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen has said that adoption of the BIMSTEC Master Plan on connectivity during the Sri Lanka summit will be a milestone development, reports Prasam Olo. It will also expedite conclusion of other framework agreements on transit, transshipment and vehicular movement, BIMSTEC agreement on motor vehicle and coastal shipping among others, said Dr. Momen during the BIMSTEC ministerial meeting in Colombo on Tuesday. A quick look at the headlines once again. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually attend the 5th BIMSTEC summit being hosted by Sri Lanka on Wednesday. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls upon BIMSTEC member states to collectively combat terrorism and violent extremism. Russia says it will reduce military activities near Kiev after face-to-face talks with Ukraine in Istanbul. UN Nuclear Watchdog's Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi reaches Ukraine to offer urgent technical assistance. US eases COVID-19 travel rating for India from high-risk level to low-risk level. Indian Minister Piyush Goyal says that India-United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement will be operationalized on 1st May this year. And in IPL cricket, Rajasthan Royals set a victory target of 211 runs before Sunrisers Hyderabad in Pune. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Tanzania. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.